What's good? This is another episode of
Honestly speaking.
of the Honestly Speaking podcast. Once again, we are thankful to be here. We are blessed, and as you see, we do have a wonderful, beautiful, special guest.
It's a little different setup today.
And we are celebrating the holidays. You know, Christmas time is coming around.
Christmas, everybody.
There's some Christmas decorations you see.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Here we have our sister, who is my twin sister, Miss Elise Green.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elise Green. I am the twin sister of Elijah and the younger sister. I don't know how you say it. The younger sister of our older brother Marcus. I'm very glad to be here. I'm really excited. This is gonna be great.
We're glad to have you here.
Indeed. So let's get it started. We're just gonna start real quick with a verse of the day. And the verse of the day today is coming from Ephesians chapter 6, verse 18. And I'm reading from the New International Version, just to simplify it for myself. And it says, "And pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people." So we want to always be praying, always staying in the faith, always being encouraged as we do deal with many trials and tribulations in our day-to-day, but always knowing that God is in control.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure we're always staying in our prayer.
And you said that was Ephesians 6 and 18?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. So we're going to open it up. We're going to get going.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, let's get straight to it. What?
So first, I think we're going to talk about just being children of PKs. And if you don't know what PK is, that's pastor's kids.
Yeah.
Pastor's child, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because we've all kind of come from that the background of being in church, the bulk majority of our lives.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna get into that. Just kind of open up the floor. Just what it's been like. What's been the experience for you personally? So we're gonna
Go ahead, at least kick that off. How has the experience of being a preacher or pastor kid affected you personally?
Well, first I'll say it's been a very positive experience. I'll say this, that I remember when we were growing up, you know, our dad is a pastor, and I never felt like we were supposed to behave a certain way because we were pastors' kids.
Yep.
Like, it was always from a place, you know, dad and mom, always from a place of do good because, number one, it's the right thing to do, but also because when you go out of here, you represent this family. You're an example of this family. And it was never from a place of, well, you're a pastor's kid. But it's been great. I love it, especially even more now, you know, being able, when I talk to dad and we just talk about randomly, just start talking about scripture and what it means and how it's affected us and how we're supposed to navigate this Christian walk.
Right.
But it's been a great experience. Of course, you know, you don't even really realize it. And I'll say for me, I didn't really realize it until I got older. Like, oh,
Absolutely.
okay, like this is a thing. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, my dad's a pastor and I'm a pastor's kid, and that comes with a certain microscope, if you will.
Yep.
But I didn't feel that way when I was young. Like, I felt like we were just a normal family, like everybody else.
Like that was just how it was.
That's just how it was.
Yep.
And I didn't feel this pressure to be perfect either, because of being a pastor's kid. You know, of course, we all make mistakes, and now it wasn't like, oh yeah, go out here and just do something stupid. No, but there's grace for you if you have messed up.
Yeah.
It was never like, oh, you did this. You're so bad. You're going to hell or whatever. No, you messed up. Let's talk about it. All right, we talked about it. Let's move on.
How do you get from there? Yeah.
You know, what can you do better next time?
That,
You know,
that's
Our word is monumental.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that's big,
Groundbreaking.
because not every pastor's kid's experience is the same,
Yeah.
and it's not always a good feeling sometimes to be a
Yeah.
pastor's kid.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
there's a certain challenge or burden that comes along with that,
Yeah.
especially when you don't really sometimes agree.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't agree necessarily with the
expectation,
role,
right?
or the
Yeah.
standard
Yeah.
that has been placed on you because of what the family you're born in. Because the truth of the matter is that you didn't ask
Right.
to be
Right.
born into that. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's a true form of acknowledgement that you have to allow yourself to get to,
Mm-hmm.
if you are a preacher's kid. And those of you that aren't preacher's kids, they usually have to deal with, or people like us usually have to deal with, a lot of inner battles,
Yeah.
um, a lot of inner battles in the mind, and also there's a form of segregation too that you go through as well, because you can't allow yourself to be seen sometimes in certain lights, which allows you to have to like kind of separate yourself from things that you necessarily, not to say that you don't want to be a part of it. It's just like it's just a part of
Mm-hmm.
it. Comes with the territory,
Yeah.
and that for me personally was just very challenging, to have to separate myself from things, just because of the image sometimes.
Yeah.
You know how detrimental the image could have been, in a lot of lights to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it really didn't have nothing to do with me. Like it was a lot of times just because of my family was seen a certain way, so therefore I had to be like in the arena that they were seen in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which forced me to kind of have to go through these challenges, these ups and downs of saying like, well, why? You know, I had a lot of questioning, like, okay, well, you know, especially when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like Elise was saying, like I didn't really, it wasn't really sensible to me when I was younger. But when I got older,
Yeah.
and me being the oldest in
Uh-huh.
in our family, like you know what I'm saying, as far as the siblings goes, me being the oldest, a lot of pressure was put on me for y'all. You know, you got brothers and sisters watching you, everything that you do, everything that you say. You know what I mean? And it boiled outside of the family, and then it was even more pressure because it boiled outside into the world.
Yeah.
People that necessarily that were friends of the family. I had to be an example to them
Mm-hmm.
because of the light and regard that and the favor, the God given favor that God had placed on our family.
Yep.
I had to really be an example because of those things. So that was a lot of pressure and a lot of weight on me at a young age.
And so many different areas.
Yeah,
You know, from over here, you're like, man, you know what I'm saying? Who
Yeah.
can I look to,
Right.
you know, to provide that example for me? And you kind of couldn't really, I mean, you can look at our parents, but, you know, generally for younger generations, it's always helpful to see somebody your age
Yeah.
man.
Absolutely.
doing in the
In the
position that you're trying to go.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
That's why I thank God for the interactive space that our family has,
Yep.
because there's so many different age gaps
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously, and how we grew up. You know what I'm saying? We grew up very close.
Yeah.
We grew up very connected.
Definitely.
I know a lot of people that don't have this kind of regime in their family. You know what I mean? And the first thing they say anytime they meet my family is like, "Man, you guys are really like y'all in it to win it." You know what I mean? And when I was younger, I was like, "Man, like that's how family's supposed to be." But then I realized like that's not everybody's story.
Not everybody's story. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't. It made me develop a heart for people to be like, you know, like not everybody is blessed like you are now. And now I'm really understanding, like, you know, it became from this burden now to a blessing. Because I would be like, well, man, like some days I don't want, and it'd be like, yeah, some days you're not gonna want to. You know what I mean? And that's the beauty of.
I have to get out of my way.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the beauty of the whole challenge. You know, like there are challenges that are like rigorous, and then there are also like healthy challenges. You know what I'm saying? Like challenges that ultimately make you better. You know, people, better brother, better sister, better. You know, better relationally. Like you know what I mean? And that allowed me to form a mindset around my family to love my family with like unconditionally, like you know, regardless of whatever we didn't see eye to eye on, it didn't matter to me. That's my family.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I know at the end of the day, my family is experiencing the same responsibility and accountability that I'm experiencing. So I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this in this journey. You know what I mean? And shout out to mom and dad.
Yes, mom, dad. We
Shout out.
We love you so much.
Shout out to uncle and auntie.
Shout out to the unc and the aunties.
Both unks. Green, we love you, man. You know,
Auntie Tracy, Auntie Christy.
Auntie Tracy, man.
Uncle Dave.
Uncle Mo, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, like you.
Shout out to the family.
The family, man.
whole family.
All our cousins, man. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we've been in this thing.
And to say cousins is like it doesn't even.
It like minimizes it.
Yeah,
You know,
because
I feel that.
We
got
grew
too
up
many of 'em.
so that's true too. But we grew up so close. It's like brother sister. It's not even like cousin doesn't even begin to define it like for us. And so.
And I think another challenge too was always having the. Another challenge too was always being like present. Like allowing yourself to be present in that, you know what I mean? It was a lot of days where I tried to go absent to it. If you guys know what I'm saying, like where I was just trying to like to be like, all right, let me do the minimum, like the bare minimum, so I could just at least be like recognized, and then I'm just okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like instead of just being like, nah, like seeing with real clarity, real growth, and real eyes, to be like, nah, you know, this is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
This is a lifestyle.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very frustrating dealing with people that's not in the family, because people think that we're just like genies or magicians or just this entertainment venue for people to look at, when they don't realize that this takes hard work.
Yes. A lot of sacrifice.
A lot of things that I can vouch for my brother and sister. There's a lot of things that we wish, like we wish we could do. We wish we could say. Let me say that first.
Yes.
You know what? That was the biggest challenge. Watching our mouths. Because there's sometimes where I just want to tell people, you know,
shut up.
Your feet stank and you don't know Jesus. Like, but I can't say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't say that to people who potentially are really, and it's not to be cocky or anything, but people are potentially coming closer to God as God is using us as a family.
Right.
You know, I realize that we're just going to have an effect on people because of the effect that God has had on us. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we've seen a lot of dark things at an early age. Mm-hmm. Like we've seen some things we were not supposed to see. Yeah. And we heard some things that we weren't supposed to hear. You know, and we had to become we had to remain functional through that.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that it was the grace of God that allowed us to grow up the way we did, because there's not a day that goes by where I don't think like, man, like I just don't think like, man, I got a great family. Like I every day I'm like, man, like when I can just go to mom's and just be like, man, like I know I can say something, ain't gonna be taken the wrong way. I know I could, if I'm tired, I could be that. I don't have to
just come there and rest.
You know, I don't have to sit there and try to build up something that I'm not. I don't have to keep that up. So a lot of that, the cheat code was really us coming together in my eyes. That helped me deal with the ins and outs of being in ministry, like, because that was ultimately what our family was wrapped in anyway. You know, it was just, you know, the ministry. And we kind of voiced this on like previous, you know, episodes where it was like that ministry factor, man, really like it drained our family in a lot of lights. Like we had to be honest about that.
Yeah.
On honestly speaking, telling you honestly, like
Because when we first started, we were at the Fermi, I believe it was.
Yeah.
But it was us for the longest time. We were the members.
Right.
We were the people who set up, and we had to come in,
take down,
and put chairs out, and because you are I guess you could say the first family, I guess. Because you are seen as that, and that's the position you hold, your PKs. Who has to be at church first? You do. You have to set the example. So, and not just be there first, but be on time, and be the first ones there, the last ones to leave, because we have to take down everything, and all right.
And that example has not eluded us.
Yeah, no.
It's actually gotten stronger.
Yep.
It's like as the time has gone on, you know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to see the transference too of like the leadership roles, like of how we're getting older and we're getting more responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Like we're getting like more standards put on us, and now like I'm glad that it happened at the age that we were at, because like I even think about y'all all the time, because it's like I knew I was young, but then it was like y'all had standards put on y'all even at a younger age. I didn't really realize that until like down the line. I'm like, man, like I was like, man, my brother and sister are like they are really like on it. They have to be, because they're like there's no room for the gap. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a lot of you guys' upbringing was my motivation. I never really told y'all that. But, every day that, I was living and it was something to be accomplished, I was thinking about y'all, like my younger siblings, because I was like, man, I want them to know that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to struggle in finding out what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I want them to have, if I have to be the martyr in and being looked at as, a failure or whatever, like, if I gotta be the person that's standing there and take the shots, I'm gonna do that. As the older brother, I'm gonna do that, because my brother and sister are gonna I'm gonna make sure that they know it's okay to be them. It's okay to fall and be like, all right, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I didn't get it that time. Or it's okay not to know something. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times I'd be like, I used to feel bad about that, but then I started to understand, like, nah, my brother and sister, my motivation with that. Like, I don't know what I want to be in life. I really don't know. Because a lot of things that I go for or try to acquire, ultimately end up not being for me. So I always was getting pushed back and hold on, like, where's my, and you start seeing all these people around you that are not in our family, and they just shooting and taking off. You know what I mean? And I realized that, like, why it was happening. Now, you know what I'm saying? Now I realize why it was happening. It's just for this platform right here.
Absolutely.
I know people that probably seen us when we were kids and look at us now, they probably are like in amazement. And the only reason why I say that is because they tell us.
Right.
Some people cannot believe the things that come out of our mouth. Some people cannot believe even the stance that we take. You know what I mean? And that's, I think being a pastor's kid made us tough skinned, bro. Like we dogs, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I think for me personally, when it comes to being a pastor's kid, I think early on it was just kind of like fitting in, like kind of like I don't want to say being rebellious, but kind of just going against the grain a little bit.
yes,
Being that, because I knew all the people, like, playing basketball, like growing up, and then going to the same high school that my brother went to. So knowing an older crowd because of they were his teammates, so they'll be 2 years older than me, 3 years older than me. But some of them will still be back because they were younger than him. So really get into the in crowd, knowing people because of my brother getting that kind of fame, and then also solidifying my own path, going and playing ball. So me knowing all these different people, and I think just wanting to be cool and accepted. Going into high school and middle school, and so I think for me it was just kind of like just trying to fitting in with the crowd and just not really establishing my own identity as far as a young Christian man. And I think really the biggest thing is not really taking it serious, being younger.
Yes,
I don't think I became into really taking God serious and His will and His word until maybe my 20s, maybe I would probably say like my mid 20s, 23, 24, 25 is kind of when I really started to like experience God for myself. And so I was like, okay. I always realized it always takes me back to the family because a lot of the things that, and this is what helped me take it more serious because a lot of the things that mom and dad would say and the counsel they would give us, I would see that.
Yeah.
And so I'd be like, man, okay, that's my experience because I'm knowing like, okay, this is real. You know what I'm saying? It's not just some fake thing just, written up. Like, this is real because I'm experiencing it. And each and every time I go through something, I'm always taken care of. It's never nothing crazy getting out of hand. Like, I look at people around me and I'm like, man, they going through this, that, and the third. But I notice that when I pray and I stay consistent and close to my family, that I never get too far away. You know what I'm saying? Too far away. Like, so.
And that's a big deal too, because that means the environment was set for us. You know what I mean? That foundation was set for us, so that when we did experience rebellion or anything like that, like I know for me personally, I know me and my brother had a little bit more room because we were boys.
Definitely,
yeah. Yeah, to have to experience certain things and kind of and our dad to tell you that firsthand. Like he was like, man, the way he parented us or the way he reared us was like, I'm gonna let my boys hit their head a little bit more because they have to.
Mm-hmm.
He'll tell you that firsthand. You know what I mean? Like, and he's had conversations with both of us where he's like, man, y'all gotta go out and experience some things. Not that it was any different for our sisters, but our dad believed that yes, there is a double standard in the experience of life when it comes to his daughters and his sons.
Yeah. And he said that to me. He told me that recently. He said, I was very particular in how I raised my daughters because we've had this conversation many times. He was like, because men have a easier time recovering from things than women do.
Yeah.
And so, like for growing up, for me, I was sheltered a lot from a lot of things.
Yeah.
And but I was able to look to my brothers and see, oh, okay, this is what we do, this is what we don't do. Or so, but like through my teen years, and I didn't understand it when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I used to get so mad, like they get to go everywhere. Like, what is this? Like they get to do everything.
I'm not gonna lie to you though.
Yeah.
It may kind of have more free range because when I got, I still couldn't really like. I had some freedom, like more than y'all, but I still kind of had like, because once the academics part was sliding and stuff, that was part of the like, okay, the pastors like, hey, your grades this, that, and the third, you gotta respect your elders, but if your grades ain't right, then it's a halt on X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But even still, it was still a little bit more of a shelter. I wasn't really like hanging out too much with friends unless it was like family friends. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was just kind of it was still structured a certain way to where it was like I'm not just gonna be out. And I will say that it helps me because like the more and more that happened, I was able to like kind of form like, okay, these are the kind of people I should be around. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's like, and then there are certain people that I know I shouldn't be around, and when I was around them and trying to act, how they were or whatever the case was, it didn't really go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
a lot of those people I don't even really talk to on a day-to-day basis now.
Yeah.
And I remember they always would tell me like, when you graduate high school, you're not really gonna have a lot of friends. And I used to be like, man, people I know.
Yep.
I used to be like, man, I know, and I thank God for the sport of basketball because I've grown to know so many people. And I'm talking about not even just like my partners, my homies, like women through basketball. Like I could be, what I'm saying, out at a gathering, and I'm not saying like, oh, I'm some celebrity. I'm just saying like, as far as like me going to Oakland High and playing a sport there, and then graduating, and then me going to a college, and then
It was
people
exposure.
finding out I play basketball. So it's kind of okay. You play basketball, you're on the team. Okay, cool.
It was real. It was real
So,
exposure.
Yeah, so it was. I'm blessed in that aspect, and so the next part I'll say is, what are areas that you struggle as a believer? I'll open that one up and just kind of see where we at with that one.
You go ahead, Elise.
I struggle really to like find time to like sit with God and like talk to Him, and not just struggle like to do it, the struggle to want to do it, like to really sit down, to pray, and to spend time with God, because in case anyone didn't know, like it's a relationship like any other, but it's the most important because it informs, or it should inform, all the other relationships.
It sets the stage for all your other relationships.
Right. So I struggle a great deal with that, and like to make myself sit in the quiet and just be present with God. To the same, if not more, giving more time than I do everything else. Like I could sit and watch TV or be on my phone, YouTube, looking at videos, whatever, and I'll give that a whole day.
Yeah.
I'll give it that whole day.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like my relationship with God, I can't even spare like 15 minutes.
Yeah. I get that.
Hour.
Or an hour, right? But I can give all this other stuff so much attention.
I think that's why life kind of hits the way it does, because I know like God allowed me to experience certain things, so I could just do just that.
Yeah.
Where I literally was just like, yeah, I don't want no distractions, no entertainment. I want to experience what God has for me right now. And if I can't get it right now, I'm not doing nothing else until I hear from Him. Like until I can experience an overwhelming presence of Him. You know what I'm saying? Because I need a change. That's initially what turned me on my journey that I'm on now. I was struggling with school. I was struggling with relationships, and I was just very, like I was talking about before. I just grew up very angry. I'm kind of like trying to like reserve emotions now, like about it, because I'm like thinking back like how difficult that was for me at that time. I thought I would never be good enough for anything. Like that was just like my mindset. So it got to that point where I was experiencing all those things, and I just sat myself down. And I told God, I said, if you're, because I keep hearing all these wonderful things about you, about how you're a helper and a healer and a deliverer and all these things, but I'm not experiencing that. It made me angry. And so I got to a point where I was like, God, if you want me to continue to believe in you, if you so-called want my heart, you're gonna have to do something for me now. And if you don't do it now, we're just gonna have a problem. Like I'm just never gonna look at you. And I remember that day, like I remember being in the room. We were on 64th, and like so many things was just knocking me out, knocking me on the ground. And I was like, man, God, how are you this great God? And you won't help me not one bit. What's going on?
Yeah.
And I remember And I told God, I said, I was on my knees and I was like, I'm not moving from this spot until you talk to me. I was like, I'm not moving from here. I was like, I think I was so like locked in and I was like, yeah, I'm not moving from this spot till you talk to me, till I hear your voice. And I immediately just felt this rush just come over me. Like this wind just come over me and like my whole body just fell to the ground. And I was in there crying, just saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, God. I'm sorry. I could not say anything else but I'm sorry. Like, because I felt him. I felt him take over my body in a way where it was like, I'm here.
Yeah.
This is why nobody can deter me from the journey that I'm on right now because you got people that will tell you, oh, well, that's nonsense and God is this. No, I've had personal experiences with God throughout my lifetime that I cannot deny that it was nobody but the presence of God. And it wasn't through people. It was literally an experience I've had with a force.
Yeah.
A force that was greater than me that just moved things in line so easily that I could not deny it. You know what I mean? And that from that day, I was in the Word every day. I mean, I was in the Word every day. I was fasting. I was like, and I remember that vividly because that was like my preempt to me starting to minister.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like I'm being drawn and called to do something because I was like, it went from a dark pit to now I can see the whole entire world. Like it's so bright that literally I was like, I get it now. I get where I'm supposed to be. And sometimes I'm speaking to those things that God allowed you to experience because there are certain things that you would do in order to experience God. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about y'all personally, but I know there's been points in my life where I'm just being like, I don't want nothing else. Like, oh yeah. I mean, so many things that hit the fan to where it's like, why is this happening to me? You know what I mean? To where I'm like, okay, cut the TV off, put my phone down. I don't even want no music on.
Let's get down to the real business.
Like, God, where you at?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Let's get down to
like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
So that's been me, like, where I feel like my faith has been like challenging at and just really just kind of being consistent in that in the value of having a relationship with God, not allowing just because my family is so involved in God that thinking I am too.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
just having a mindset to be like, you know what? No, there's certain things that God has for me personally, even though my family is, like searching and sorting after God. You know what I mean? What about you, E?
I think for me, as a combination of like fitting in and acceptance, and as well as like, and I go back to like, dealing with people because I've always had to deal with, a lot of just different types of people. I say now, man, like I have it so down, like to where, like I was at work and then they was like, yeah, man, I'm waiting for a resident to say something to you. I know you're gonna go. I said, see, that's the thing. I'm not. You waiting. I'm like, it ain't ever gonna happen. Wait, I don't care to.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I said because I've already been through so many situations. Like for one, where I was just letting everything slide. And then I've also been in the phase of my life where I was also trying to one up the person that had the last word and get everything that I say and fill out. And it's like I don't need to do that no more. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that I see it now, I'm not arguing with nobody no more.
Yeah.
Why do I need to I'm giving that energy to God. Let me go talk to God about and figure out ways I could be better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because and I think another thing too is like that's kind of really overtaken me. And this is why I know God is like so over me in terms of dealing with people is because gratitude and grace is so like because I've received it so much. Yeah. Like, our parents and our family that sometimes clicks. Like sometimes man, I get annoyed, and then like within a few minutes, I'm just back to being like, okay, man, you don't know what this person is experiencing. Like,
Yeah.
like I had not really a situation, but it was like a coworker of mine was like checking in with me about work. And I was saying, oh, well, I might miss today because, of a family thing, this, that, and the third. And he was kind of like the way that he like was texting was kind of pushing, and I was just kind of like, well, this was like the way that I sent it was like this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then you can kind of
gauge it.
You know what I'm saying? So I told him, I said, well, I have a family thing now, and I don't know what else really to say. I left it at that. I didn't respond. He said, and this is just funny because because when you do that, people get it. Dude, he says, oh yeah, man, we got to cover. Go handle your family thing. Didn't respond. Left it where it was at. Right. I go on to work the next day. I go on to work the next day, and I think before I got to work, he sent me a text. I was like, "Hey man, sorry for like being pushy. If I was being pushy, this, that, and the third. I know family over everything." And I'm like,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, you doggone right.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm not giving like if I go back because I have in the past been like. I'm going, shot for shot. Like I'm texting this, like, man, no, you know what I'm saying? So I had like me doing that, and then when I get into work, and then he gets into work a few hours later, he sees me, apologizes.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, imagine if I kept it going and kept kept lighting fire to it.
Yeah.
I gotta continue to show, and then I ended up still buying him lunch.
Wow.
I gotta show love, you know what I'm saying, regardless of. And I told him like, hey man, I didn't take it personal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just voiced to you what was going on. And my thing is with people, like, man, either you going to understand or you're not.
Yeah.
And that's in all aspects of everybody out
there. That's a great point because, like, you realize that, really, they always say, like, oh, like cliche saying, sometimes they're saying, like, the battle's not yours, it's the Lord's. It was like, no, that's like a real thing, though. Like, when you allow yourself to just be at a place of understanding that you don't have to have certain involvement,
but that's not gonna and that's not gonna come from like just waking up every day. Like you got to be at peace with yourself.
Yeah,
because if you can tell, and that's why we was talking. You said this, and I was like, you can tell when somebody's not at peace with themselves. In their life and what's going on around them by like how they interact with others.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
You can tell like what kind of work.
There's a lot of projection that goes on.
Yeah. So whatever I'm dealing with personally,
projection that goes on and puts that onto project that onto other people or other situations, allow you kind of like to form and manipulate the narrative in a lot of lights because I know that people sometimes can allow themselves to think that necessarily what they're dealing with is going to be or is going to outweigh what other people are dealing with. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it causes you to act that way in certain forms and certain lights where you kind of make yourself out to be just a horrible person. You kind of create this like self-image of yourself that you shouldn't be dealing with what you're dealing with. So I treat you that way, like well, and something wrong with you, and then just be like, well, we'll just get over it. And it's like you get over it, what you going through then, like you know what I'm saying? Like if that's the case, like
because I had nothing to do with it.
Because you know what I mean.
The space that I'm in, man, is just I'm like, man, I'm so freaking elated.
Yeah.
I'm happy, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
because at the end of the day, there's a weight that's lifted off of you that you necessarily and this comes from learning and practice. You know what I'm saying? Like
discipline.
You had to have a lot of like relationships blow up in your face, a lot of conversations that went too far, so that you can understand like, oh, hold on, okay, oh, all right, here's the median, here's the point where
Like, how
here's
do
the
I need
line
to-
I don't cross.
How do I need to gauge that moving forward?
And you
Yeah.
ultimately are taking responsibility and accountability for yourself, for your emotions, like we were talking about last episode, like, you know, about if you know that there's something about you that is easily triggered, you have to put up the right barriers and limitations and parameters. Not only saying that you're limited to do something, but that an effect can happen if you don't do that.
Yeah.
Like like me, like with anger and stuff. Like I know there's certain things I just cannot involve myself in, like with conversations, because I just know I'm going to get angry. It's just that simple. It's not that I don't want to have an all around engagement. It's like no, like I know that's too deep for me. Like I know I can drown right here. Like you know what I'm saying. So I'm not going to swim over there. I'm not going to go in those waters. You know what I'm saying. Like even if you're trying to egg me on too, you know what I mean. Like a lot of that is like. It's self-responsibility, man. Like
It's maturity. It's
oh God, that was the word I was looking
it's
for.
spirit. It's maturity at its finest. When you get to a place where you can understand that, you know what, I don't have to be a part of every conversation. I don't have to respond to everything, even though I could be justified in my response.
And a response, yeah.
I could be justified in how I feel, but I've learned just because you right don't mean you right.
Wow.
Like you could make me mad. I could say something and I'd be justified in how I respond to you. But then if I call now we're both angry and now I've just caused more offense. So I'm right, but I'm not right.
Yeah, the right words at the wrong time still cause dissension.
I like that.
You know, so
Just because I'm right don't mean I'm right.
that's hard.
Yeah.
That because you want to have the last word. Everybody does. You want to have the last word, especially when you're being when offense is being,
right.
pushed to you and your feelings are being hurt. And I'm not saying be walked over, but at the same time, you gotta know when, you know what? I know that whatever I say right now is only gonna add fuel to the fire. So you know what? Let me go.
And I find so much comfort in that now.
Yeah.
Like now that I've grown, I find so much comfort in not saying much, to where it's like now I just go quiet. Mm-hmm. Like now you deal with me and you make me too mad or something like that, I just be quiet. And you be like, you all right? Mm-hmm. Good. You know what I mean? Like hey, you want to go? No. Hey, you know where I don't know where it is. I'm gonna be very minimal.
Very short.
And you can call it like spiteful, but I'd rather be content in that way than telling you
how I really feel.
That I'm like 3 seconds from gouging your eyes out. You know? Like like, you know the neck dimples that you have right here? I want to put my thumbs there and
give you a good massage.
Right, and apply pressure and wait till you go into this nice deep sleep. Like just, like that. I don't want to tell you that, so I'm just gonna be minimal with you. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna do the bare minimum of what I have to do. Not that it's because I'm doing it halfway. It's like, no, I understand that there's a boiling point. I understand that I am human, and this is what I'm trying to give you grace for. You're human too. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what, like, to what you're speaking to, Eli, where you just realize, like, man, you just don't know what certain people are going through. I give myself that grace sometimes. Because there's certain things personally, I don't know if anybody ever experienced this. There's certain things that when you're going through stuff in life, you just don't really know what it's there for. Yeah. Until down the line, until later on. So a lot of times people want you to explain what's going on, and sometimes you can't. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure it out myself.
I really don't know. Definitely. You know what I mean? and I'm trying to figure that out, and you're not helping. You know what I mean? You're not helping the situation. Yes, I don't know how to tell you. I can't tell you how to help. But sometimes you need people in your life that can read a room without you necessarily always having to explain yourself.
Yeah.
Like if I see that y'all not yourselves, I'm not gonna always be like, hey, what's going on? Sometimes I'm gonna be like, are you hungry? Who just want to get something to eat?
Yeah, I can kind of.
And let you vouch, you know.
I can kind of attest to that because, like, sometimes, this is one of the rarest occasions, but sometimes I'm in a mode like, well, when I'm in a mode of like business and work is real, like, and people generally know that. Close to
Yeah.
me, like, and my girl knows that. Like, don't come around me messing around.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And so,
Get that from my
like,
parents.
sometimes, like, one of my friends would come around and just be like joking or doing something stupid, I just look like, bro, like, when you gonna grow up? You know,
Yeah.
and I think for me, that was one of the things for myself. And I just kind of felt God. I kind of felt God asking me like, when you gonna grow up?
Mm.
And I was just kind of like, I was just doing this deep reflection in my life. Like, man, who are the people around me? Are they making me better? You know, because I've been around people where I was just like, bro, we just stagnant. We don't, you know what I'm saying? We sitting here, we doing the same old stuff.
You said,
know what I'm saying?
you said you felt God asking you
Yeah,
that.
I just was like,
I
was just sitting,
I know that was heavy.
I just be getting these moments, man, where I just be like, I get these kicks, man, these punches, like,
man, I feel you. Straight uppercuts.
you know what I'm saying?
To the ribs.
To my face. Boom, boom.
Knocking the wind out of
Or I'm just like, or I just be looking at my life and I'll be looking at my friends and I'll be like, man, this is not enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all don't, I need to be around greater.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's going into our next topic is kind of like what, I'm just going to piggyback it, just start it off.
Go ahead, yeah.
As far as like something that we've like enjoyed on our walk, it's in Christ and just being a believer. I think mine, man, is just God just always giving me this gut check.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like, it's just like I'm just always constantly reflecting and like, and I'm not perfect, like, but I have these wild moments, man, where I just be wanting to like take over the world, and it sounds crazy, but it's just like I feel so empowered. You know what I'm saying? When I like when I talk to God,
it's not crazy. It's not crazy, bro.
It's definitely not. No.
It's unbelievable because I'm in a space now where I'm ready to grow on all levels and platforms, and I feel God pushing me to this. So
that's a true definition of strengthening by God.
Yeah.
When people say they want to be strengthened by God, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about gaining strength for the growth in their life, because growing does not feel good all the time.
No.
And
rarely it feels good any of the time.
Man, and I see all these things happening. Like, I see these things happening like business wise and in my relationship and working on different things financially and trying to get better in that regard. And I'm just like, man, I feel God just constantly being like, man, you got to continue to elevate the people around you, like, get around some different people. I feel God just telling me these different things, and it's like, man, I think one of the biggest things is just I've just loved and enjoyed is just constantly feeling empowered. Like, I've had moments where, I went through, like, and it's very rare because I'm a more like positive and high spirited and fun person. But I've had moments where I'd be like in a deep anxiety state, and sometimes I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
But like, I go on a little cleanse. I call it my spiritual cleanse, where I'm cleansing my social media, or I get off social media completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I might have one like TikTok up, and it's just a bunch of spiritual stuff and a bunch of like
Same here.
knowledgeable stuff to where, but like it's like I seen something in a video where it was like your diet isn't just what you eat. It's what you see. It's the things that you say. It's the things that you do. It's all these habits that form. You know what I'm saying? Make you the person that you are. And so,
Yeah, because it all connects.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was just it just like a lot of the time, like when I was going through this little phase, I did all these different things, and sure enough, man, I'm talking about it was a 2 week period where I was like not feeling like myself. And it was crazy because I never felt this way in my life.
Yep.
And so I'm having these thoughts, and I'm like, why am I like feeling so down? Like, man, I had to get off of and get away from the people I was around. Like, I had to switch these things up, but it's nobody's telling me that though. That's God,
Yeah, it's
speaking that to me.
he's administering it to you.
You know what I'm saying?
Building that structure for you.
I'm talking about I'm in my gospel, and I'm like, man, this actually over time like really helped me like continue to like me praying and continue. So I just think, that's my personal experiences as far as being a believer. Just I think God always, I honestly am able to hear Him speak these things.
It's a big deal.
You're not going hard enough.
It's a big
You know what I'm saying? You need to elevate these areas,
Yeah.
man. These people around you ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? You need some more.
It's a big deal.
Because I feel my business and my brand.
Yeah.
I feel my business and my brand, ready to, make some leaps because I'm doing different things that I was doing before. And so now I see that there's different results now. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
And so I started to get, when stuff like this happens, I get excited. And sometimes I get impulsive and I'm like, okay, cool. Hold on, relax now. You got a little too much dip on your chip. So, but I feel myself, but it's God, because I was like, man, from the place that I came from, where I was like, I was just in this funk and not really want to do stuff or be around people or speak to people. And then, not going to work and not want to, but then now, switch being flipped. And God saying, man, now it's time to run. It's time to go.
Yeah,
It's no longer playtime.
The restraints have been held long enough.
It's no longer playtime.
Time to hit the jets.
Yeah.
And that's the balance. That's the balance in between
People think you got forever.
the relationship with God. You know what I mean? There are certain times where God puts the hope. You're like, yo, wait a minute. And you might be waiting for a while.
Like, I was telling Mom
you know what I mean? And then
I was telling Mom this like a few days ago. I was like, yeah, Mom, like it'd be like random. Like I'd be sitting up there. I'll wake up at like 4. No, I'll wake up at like 6 or 7 or something like that. And I'm like, I don't really get up at this time. Like, I don't like to get up that early. Like unless I go work out maybe. But I don't want to go to work at this time.
Right.
But on my off day, I'll wake up early. And I'll be trying to sit in the bed for a few hours. But I can't go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why I can't go to sleep? And then I get that's like a light on. Like, God, something you need to get up. Go do something. Go do some work. You know what I'm saying? But I can't go to sleep. It's like these little things.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling Mom this. Mom's like, yeah, that's God just like pushing you, telling you to get up, like pushing you. And I was like, man, it's just. And that's why, like, in
especially where you are right now.
Yeah, in the space of my life,
bro, whether you know it or not, you're not even in the prime of your life.
I ain't even.
You're still in the very vast youth of yourself. So it's like a lot of that is you being pushed, one, to have time with God so that He can speak to you. You know what I mean? And then 2, so that you can have a fullness of experience of a day, a fullness of joy or a fullness of gratitude or a fullness of, and sometimes I notice this too, like sometimes you cannot really get to a certain part of yourself in a day if you get up later in certain times. If you,
Yeah.
I realize like sometimes when I just get up, make my bed,
Like right back in it.
you know,
I don't even
like
I don't even make my bed all the time. I'm
Like-
getting up going to work.
like I made it a thing. Like man, get up and like do something that is constructive. And when I do that, those are my best days because that's when I'm literally can be like, man, I can be in the Word for 2 hours. Like those are the days where I can be like, man, all right, I'm talking to God. I'm in the shower talking to God. Like I'm in the
Yeah.
I'm like, hey God, whatever. Like Lord, give me your mind, your body, strength, all of this. I want it all. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I don't have to sit there and be like, dang, I don't know what words to say to you other than. And those are times like that too. You know what I mean? Like, but that's social construct of like us being in our youth, man. That's another thing because that youth that we have, that's a weapon. You know what I'm saying? That is a weapon that God can use.
Because you have zeal.
Against these vices that's in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I definitely could vouch for that just being like, oh, being woken up and being like, okay, yeah, I'm just sitting up here. It's just certain days where I get up and I just be like, oh, I'll watch a movie. And it don't feel good. It feels like mundane, like, okay, I really don't have. But then, and then God administers to me and he like ministers to me in a way of saying like, well, your value is not tied to what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I get it now. Like, I'm not feeling valuable because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So whatever I'm tied to is devaluing me. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of that is to push you to get that value out of you, that value out of life. You know what I'm saying? The very breath that we breathe, that's priceless. You know what I mean? And
that's kind of why like on my social media, I put nothing but like stuff that involves God, like scriptures.
yeah,
Or like on Twitter, I'm just retweeting people just talk about thank you Lord for waking me up, or people posting scriptures because I'm like this is the way that I've been able to come into whatever success that I've acquired.
Yeah.
It's not people, it's not it's like the agenda God has given me.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like why would I would be a fool to turn away and go back to
What about
other things.
What about you? At least like what's the best thing about having the faith or relationship with God to you?
The journey he takes you on, really. Things you don't necessarily expect, but in the end, they're the best thing for you. I remember particularly, I was 23 at the time. I had just got accepted into Berkeley, UC Berkeley, and but I had been at my community college for a while. I had all my friends with me. When I got to UC Berkeley, I was all by myself.
Yeah.
I had 2 people who were there, but they were about to leave. Like, they were about to graduate.
Got you.
And I remember feeling really down about it. Like, I was like to the point where Mom even knows, she was like, why you have this is a great accomplishment, yet I noticed you're not really smiling. Like, if I was in your shoes, I'd be smiling ear to ear. And I was like, there's nobody around me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm back at square one again. Like, I'm by myself. And I kind of didn't understand why. And then God just arrested me. Like, I need you to get serious about me. Like, I've taken you from everybody that you were so comfortable with and everything you knew.
Yeah.
Because I need you to get with me.
Wow.
Be serious about me. Like, I know you believe in me. I know you got faith in me, but you're not serious.
Wow.
And I had to, at first I was like, what you mean? Like, no, I'm saying I go to church. He's like, I'm not just talking about going to church. I'm not just talking about singing up, with the worship team. I mean, day to day.
Yeah.
When you're not up here. And for the first time, I had sought after God like never before.
Yeah.
I was in my word every day. And it wasn't just the verse of the day. If that's where you are, that's great. But I knew I knew that I could do more than that.
You could dig deeper.
And God had taught me something about isolation, and He was saying, I put you in a place where all those if you had stayed, if I had put you somewhere where I'd get lost in the muddle of that.
And the sauce.
And
lost in the sauce.
And then as I kept reading my word, I was like, wait a minute, like that's where we know God best is when we're isolated.
Isolation, man.
And I'll say this to you guys, like isolation is not always a bad thing. Like Paul, like I remember talking to Dad about it, and he was like, well, think about it. All the great people in the Bible, their encounters with God, it was never on public display.
Never.
It was always in private.
I was just about to say that.
And I realized that's when I really understood that, hey, this is a relationship.
Yep.
Like this is a relationship. You have a part to play, and so does God. And
yeah, because ultimately, ultimately, what can be effective or defective is other people's faith. So when God's dealing with you in a way that's going to require a certain amount of faith from you, you can't have other influences of faith around you because it will be like, oh, I don't think that's going to work. Oh, I've never seen it done like that. And God's like, that's how I work. I work in the non-traditional. Yeah. I work in the unconventional. I work in those areas where I get most of the things done with the things that you feel like are not going to work. You know what I mean? Like, because I was literally going to say that. I was like, man, it's a lot of times where, a lot of the prophets would be like, yeah, I'm about to go into the mountains.
Jesus would go pray.
And they would depict him coming back shining and glowing.
Yeah.
And then they would have a word for God for the entire nation. Like, you know what I mean? Like so it's like,
and the people I was around weren't like, they believed God, but
they weren't God-fearing.
We never had conversations like where we spoke over each other. We didn't have that. And so I can hear God say, I got you from away from people who faked the funk with me because it rubbed off on you.
Right.
And I don't want that for you.
Who have a image of God but lack the power of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's I totally feel that. And that's like a big deal when it comes to the journey too, because you have to kind of sit yourself down and realize that like God is trying to show you something specifically that he's not showing somebody else.
Yeah.
That he has just for you in a way.
Yeah.
And that's what blows my mind about God is he's so vast like that. He's there. You can't really see all of God because he's so vast. So your whole lifetime, you're going to learn something new about him. It doesn't matter how long you've been in a relationship with him. It doesn't matter when you met him, when he captivated your heart, none of those things. It doesn't matter. It's like you're going to always see a different side of God that's going to blow your mind. That's going to keep you so much at his throne, at his feet. Because I think that's why personally, when I read the Bible and it talks about how the angels are crying, holy, holy to God, I think they're saying that is because when they're flying around the throne of God, they're seeing something new about him.
Yeah.
To where they're saying like, holy, like, oh, like, oh my,
apart, so
yes, like, oh my God, like, oh my you. You know what I mean? Like that's why I believe personally when I read about it, I'm like, man, I think that's why like we have to allow ourselves to learn about God because God is so vast. He can be simple and natural, but he's so like super celestial and terrestrial. Like he's also very thin, and he's also very full, but he's also light, but he's also heavy. You know what I'm saying? He's also very quiet and peaceful, but he's also very loud and wrathy.
And so vast yet so personal.
But so yeah.
Like so, like the God who created the universe, yet be very direct.
Right. Can speak something so direct to you that's like, that's so pinpoint to your heart that it pierces your heart in a way that's just like, like I said, it keeps you at his throne. Like, man, because I constantly, it brings me to tears every time. Every time in worship, I think about this. I always start crying because I'm like, there's a God out there who is so great yet cares about me specifically. And that blows my mind, bro. It blows my mind that a God who really don't necessarily have to deal with me does.
Ooh. Thank you, Lord.
Like in that like mindset, it just creates so much like my brother has been saying, like that's been instilled with him. It creates a spirit of gratitude that just, man, it just keeps me going. It keeps me on this journey. It keeps me wanting to love people. It keeps me I'm talking about even when I experience, things that are like edgy, things that are kind of rub me the wrong way, man. I always seek God in it, and that's my take on what I love about the faith and believing in God is that I can take to God anything, anything that's on my mind, anything that's dealing with me. I don't care. I get to the point sometimes I be asking God what shoes to wear. God, what shoes should I put on today?
What shoes can I kill on with God?
Like, and you know what? He glorifies that reaction. Because I've done that before and wore certain shoes, and then somebody says to me, "Man, I love those shoes." And then I'm having a conversation, and I'm having a conversation with somebody who I particularly wouldn't be having that conversation with, but the shoes were the starter. But they're not knowing that I prayed to God about to wear those shoes. Or you know what I'm saying? Or what should I eat today?
God is in every aspect of my life.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I remember you guys know Dave, right? Like Dave was here when he came here service one of the Sundays, and he said, Marcus, you got to get to the point where you consult God on everything about your life. He said, I don't care how little it is, I don't care how medium sized, or I don't care how big it is. He said, when you get to the point that you talk to God about every detail of your life, he said, that's where you're going to start to maximize the potential that you're having, and you won't have so many shifts of pain in dealing with being invaluable because you're literally going to God about every single niche and inch of your life. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, man, I totally feel that. Like, I totally feel that because I was like, I kind of was getting to that point already because I was like, man, anytime I don't, left turn, far right turn, I'm like, I'm off course. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or things happen where it just throws me off so much, and I'm like, oh, I gotta, hold on, God, like, let me get my bearings. Like, because all right, now I'm back to like, okay, what can I go this far? Can I go this far? Can I go now? Should I stay here? Should I not move? Should I breathe a little bit? Should I accept this? Should I not accept this? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it gets me to, man. And it's so groundbreaking, bro. Like, it keeps me just at an even keel. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's what I love about, being a believer, loving God, having faith in Him, and we're learning about that too. And that's crazy how like the questions that you had brought to our attention came before the sermon we heard. So it's like a lot of like you can see, and this is where God gets on my nerve at. Like,
God is petty.
He gets on my nerve with this, bro. It's like he's so intelligent. He's like, man, I'm about to just bring it all together and just let y'all find out. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it happens every time, bro. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that I'm saying he gets on my nerve in a bad way. He just gets on my nerve that he's just so...
He's so good.
Yes, he's so, like... He's so just... He's so... present. The Bible says he's a very present help. That means he's like That means before you turn around, he's already there.
Already there.
He's like, with the thing you need, he's just sitting there like this. Like, I was waiting. Here you go.
Yeah, but we get so caught up in trying to do things for ourselves, and then we wonder why we get to a deeper pit. You know what I'm saying? Lord, continue to let your way be done.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
This has been another episode, man, of Honestly Speaking. We would like to give it up for our sister, our first guest here.
Yay!
Our first guest of the Honestly
Great
Speaking
time.
podcast.
Of Honestly Speaking, man, we're glad you tuned in.
Twin, you do the honors
Of taking us out in prayer.
Yes. God, we just thank you for another day. We thank you for life.
Yes, Lord.
Like, there's so much going on, but I just thank you, God, for life today and for being able to see another day that you've made.
Yes, Lord.
Thank you, God, for our health and strength to whatever degree we have it, for our family, my brothers, for their lives, their spirit, their laughter, their thoughts, their mind, their heart. I thank you, God, for placing them in my life. Thank you, God, for showing us another level of you.
Yes,
even
Lord.
every day. It can be the most smallest thing, but I thank you, God, that you even invite us to know you and to know you more every day. I pray that everything that we say, that we've said today, bless somebody, encourage somebody, and to you be all glory, all honor, all praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Honestly Speaking, episode 5. Back with it another time. Fridays, 12 p.m., man. Y'all tune in. Have a great Friday, man. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Feliz Navidad.
Happy holidays.
Opa. We out of here, man.